In chapter 71 of the Dragon Ball manga, there's a fun little Easter egg that might catch the eye of the readers. When Krillin and Launch return to Kame House, the grocery bag they're carrying features the text Super Mario printed on it. During the mid-1980s, when this chapter was released, Super Mario was riding a wave of massive popularity following the success of Super Mario Bros. On the NES. By then, Mario had become a global icon, much like Dragon Ball's own Goku would eventually become. This grocery bag moment is a small but fun example of the many hidden gems scattered throughout the Dragon Ball series. In Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the solar flare is as flashy as ever, and if you pull it off just right, your opponent will completely lose sight of their target, leaving them wide open for a follow-up attack. It's a great technique for turning the tide in battle, unless you're up against two very specific characters. Turns out Master Roshi and the Great Saiyaman are totally immune to it, because they're rocking sunglasses as part of their attire. Roshi's shades have always been his signature look, and Saiyaman's ridiculous superhero getup somehow pays off in this scenario. It's one of those fun little touches that makes you appreciate the attention to detail in the game. Budokai Tenkaichi 1 has a very unique looking opening animation, and one of its most infamous and honestly funniest moments is the shot of Goku and Vegeta locking eyes. This shot is actually taken directly from chapter 458 of the manga that depicts the exact same scene. Well, it's not exactly the same. Goku wasn't shirtless and Vegeta was actually in his margin form. I must say that this scene works a lot better in the manga as the animation looks a bit goofy, which I don't think was what the animators were going for.
Do you think I'm an athlete?
What are you talking about?
Well, I think I'm an athlete, and sometimes I feel like you guys don't see me that way.
What's the subtext here?
Most trading card games draw inspiration from one another, and the Dragon Ball Super card game is no exception. Bandai looked to Yu-Gi-Oh! For a creative influence when designing Super Saiyan 3 Goku Universe X Stake hologram. This particular card mimics the aesthetic of Yu-Gi-Oh's iconic Ghost Rare, a highly sought after rarity known for its holographic ethereal appearance, like a ghost. The original Universe at Stake card, available as a Super and Special Rare in the Power Absorb set, is relatively affordable. However, for the collectors, the Super Saiyan 3 Goku Universe at Stake hologram is a holy grail. Prices for raw, ungraded copies hover around $2,000 to $2,500, while gem mint graded versions can command up to $6,000. Holy shit. Currently, it holds the title for the most expensive card in the Dragon Ball Super card game, thanks to its combination of rarity, design, and significance to the series. But ultimately, like with all collectibles, its value comes from what someone is willing to pay for it. And I would not pay that for it. In Budokai 1, every character's Kamehameha, except for Cell's, is yellow. This detail was later changed in subsequent games in the series, where the iconic attack is universally depicted as blue. The shift in colour is interesting because, technically, the Kamehameha doesn't have a definitive colour across all Dragon Ball media. In the original manga, whenever the Kamehameha appears in full colour panels, it's just white, lacking any distinctive hue. In the limited colour template pages, it sometimes has red tones. Then there is the full colour manga, where it's depicted as yellow, a choice that aligns with how all the key attacks were rendered in that version. Meanwhile, in the anime, it's predominantly shown with a blue glow, which has since become its most recognisable colour. This inconsistency makes the Kamehameha's colour dependent on the medium in which it appears, rather than being tied to a single standard. Dragon Ball Z Sagas is pretty much infamous for being one of the worst Dragon Ball Z games ever made. And if you were an original Xbox owner, it was your only option for a Dragon Ball Z game on the console. To make things worse, the game had a super limited release in the US. I still remember picking up an imported copy for just $1, and even at that price, I felt ripped off. One of the few interesting things about Sagas though is the opening animation. The art style is very One Piece inspired, and there's a good reason for that. It was supervised by Masahiro Shimanuki, a veteran animator who had worked on Dragon Ball since its early days, and then started working on One Piece in 1999. His evolving style clearly blended into the animation, resulting in this mashup of Dragon Ball Z and One Piece aesthetics. The intro feels like two franchises had a baby. Broader facial spacing, exaggerated expressions and all. It's a unique touch, even if the game itself didn't live up to the expectations set by such a cool opening. In Budokai Tenkaichi 3, unlocking future Gohan has a touch of poetic irony to it. You have to wish him back to life through Shenron. This small mechanic is a beautiful way of bridging gameplay with storytelling. It reminds you of the tragedy of future Gohan's life and the hope that comes from the Dragon Balls. In a sense, unlocking him is giving him a chance to fight once more. In Shin Budokai 2, future Gohan is given abilities he never had in the original anime. Not only can he transform into Super Saiyan 2, but he also gains the power-up from the Elder Kai's ritual, boosting his strength even further. On top of that, future Gohan wields the Z Sword as part of his moveset, using it to deliver powerful strikes against his enemies. These additions make future Gohan feel like a more versatile and fully realized fighter, blending elements from other parts of the Dragon Ball lore. While none of these abilities align with his depiction in the series, they give fans a chance to imagine a what-if scenario where future Gohan reached his full potential. During the first fight of the Cell Saga in Tenkaichi 3's Dragon History, if Goku loses the punch-out with Cell and then proceeds to tag out, Mr. Satan will enter the ring instead of Gohan. When fighting against Cell, you are able to use Mr. Satan's ultimate, which will have Fat Boo flying in and attacking the opponent. But since this fight takes place years before Boo was released, this shouldn't be possible. In The Legacy of Goku 2, there's a small but impactful gameplay detail that really shows how much care went into tying mechanics to the story. After exiting the hyperbolic time chamber and leading to the fight against Cell, Vegeta and Trunks adopt their ascended Super Saiyan forms when transforming into Super Saiyan. This isn't just a visual change, it directly affects gameplay. Unlike the usual boost in speed players associate with going Super Saiyan, the ascended forms actually make the move slower, but hit much harder. It's such a clever way to highlight the drawbacks of this transformation through gameplay. You feel the same limitations that Vegeta and Trunks face in the story, reinforcing why they eventually realize the form's fatal flaw. The sheer bulk sacrificed speed and agility, making it ineffective against a nimble opponent like Cell. This detail not only adds depth to the narrative, but also gives players a more personal understanding of why Ascended Super Saiyan wasn't the ultimate solution. It's a rare example of storytelling through gameplay, and it works beautifully to immerse players in one of Dragon Ball's most pivotal arcs. Another fascinating tidbit comes when Gohan reaches his iconic Super Saiyan 2 transformation during the battle against Cell. In this game, his transformation isn't referred to as Super Saiyan 2, but rather as Super Saiyan Rage. This choice of terminology might have seemed like a minor localization decision at the time, but it's fascinating in hindsight. Years later, Dragon Ball Super would introduce future Trunks' new transformation, officially naming it Super Saiyan Rage. While there's no direct confirmation that Legacy of Goku 2 influenced this naming, it's a cool connection that ties the past and the present of Dragon Ball together. The Ginyu Force is one of the most unforgettable aspects of the Frieza saga. Not only are they a formidable challenge for the Z Fighters, but their eccentric personalities and over-the-top antics make them wildly entertaining. Their flamboyant poses and colourful personalities and team dynamics are a clear parody of Super Sentai teams, better known in the West as the Power Rangers. The Ginyu Force's iconic group pose is the most prominent nod to this inspiration. This influence has extended beyond Dragon Ball, with the Ginyu Force referenced in various other media. In Persona 5, for instance, Fubuto Sakura, a character with a love for pop culture, has 5 figures set up in her room that mimic the Ginyu Force's iconic poses. Another potential reference can be found in Assassin's Creed. Some players have reported seeing a character striking a pose eerily similar to Captain Ginyu's, leading to speculation that it's a deliberate homage. However, others argue it might just be a glitch in the game's animation. There's footage of this pose happening to other players, but no one has confirmed its intent, and many, myself included, have been unable to replicate it. Whether it's a quirky bug or a hidden Easter egg, it's intriguing how even accidental moments can echo the Ginyu Force's influence. One homage that is absolutely intentional comes from the world of comics. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 39 features a cover that plays direct tribute to the promotional art for the Dragon Ball Super Broly film. In a way, the reference has come full circle. In Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the tournament stage starts off boxing and fighters while the crowd eagerly watches the action unfold. But things take a dramatic turn if someone lands an ultimate attack. The moment it connects, the announcer panics and urges the audience to evacuate, triggering a chaotic stampede as spectators scramble to safety.
Oh no! Folks, should I maybe get the heck out of here? No!
Once the arena clears out, the stage transforms, opening up the space and letting players explore a much larger section of the city. Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 had quite a strange release schedule. Originally released in Japan in 1995 and a year later in Europe in 1996, but the odd part is that it wasn't released in the US until 2003. Because of this, the European translation is a bit different to the US release, especially when it comes to the characters' names. Gotenks is Gotrunks, Raccoon goes by the alias Lycan, Super Boo is called Super Bow, both Android 16 and 18 are referred to as C16 and C18, which stands for Cyborg. Technically they are cyborgs, though that is a more fitting name than androids. Captain Ginyu is called Genius, but spelt wrong. Master Roshi is Genius Turtle, but this time Genius is spelt correctly. The Supreme Kai is Kaioshin, and then there is Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who is referred to as Mega Goku. Speaking of weird translations, I just have to add in the Great Saiyaman's character bio found in the manual.
Be a superhero. Fight for love and justice. Show them what you've got. You are still at school, so you have to fight behind this mask. Neither Videl nor the others must know. But above all, you love wearing this getup. With varied techniques of a good level, Gohan is not very strong in the attack. Our Masked Avenger does not have the experience of Gohan, and in any case, not in manga or TV series. Luckily, you are good potential Gohan. So forward, Avenger! So he's not strong in the attack, unlike Gohan, who is strong in the attack. So he's a Gohan, but he's not the Gohan that's good at attack, unlike in the manga, who that Gohan is good at the attack. I don't understand what the fuck is going on.
However, the European release isn't the only version guilty of strange translations. Gogeta made his video game debut in Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22, although the secret opening implies that this form is achieved via Potara earrings rather than the fusion dance. This is complicated further by the fact that Gogeta is referred to as Vegito in the North American version of the game. The English translation has always had a bit of a struggle with Vegeto's name. In Japan he's called Vegito, spelt Vegetto. The Vege comes from Vegeta, and the TTO is derived from Kakaroto, the Japanese pronunciation of Goku's Saiyan name Kakarot. It's a straightforward mashup that makes sense in the original context. But then we get to the English adaptations, and things get a little messy. The English manga translation initially went with Vigorot because they figured, hey, we don't call him Kakaroto, we call him Kakarot, so they swapped out the TTO for a ROT, thinking it would make more sense to English-speaking fans. Finally, there's Funimation's take, where they decided to stick with Vegito, but randomly tossed in an I, turning it into Vegito. Where did that mysterious I even come from? Well, I'm guessing from the same person that decided that there was an I in Frieza.
So, you must be Frieza.
Actually, it's Lord Frieza.
Really? Then why is there an I in it?
There isn't.
Back in 2013, if you were to pre-order Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z, you will receive a code to unlock Sage Goku. Goku sporting a Naruto Sage Mode costume in the game is such a cool crossover moment, especially when you consider Naruto gets Goku's Turtle School uniform as a bonus costume in Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. It's like a mutual nod between two legendary series. What makes Sage Goku even more fun is how he fully leans into the Naruto vibes. When he fires off his Kamehameha, he does it with a hand gesture that looks just like the jutsu from Naruto. And let's not forget his running animation, arms stretched back, full on ninja mode. It's little details like this that make the crossover feel extra special. It's just a shame that it's locked behind a DLC code. And this is not the only crossover between Naruto and Dragon Ball. Chiaotzu makes a sneaky little cameo in Naruto chapter 150. During the festival scene, you can spot his face as a mask displayed in one of the panels. It's no surprise really. Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, has openly said he's a big fan of Akira Toriyama's work. He's even credited Toriyama as one of his biggest inspirations for becoming a manga artist. So this little nod of Dragon Ball feels like a nice shout out to the series that helped pave the way for Naruto. In Dragon Ball Raging Blast, there's a what-if scenario that ends with Vegito being permanently fused. Goku and Vegeta stuck together forever. At the time, this seemed like a plausible outcome since the Potara earrings were originally said to create a permanent fusion. However, Dragon Ball Super later retconned this, clarifying that Potara fusion is only permanent for Kais, while for mortals it lasts just 1 hour, unless of course the fusion is disrupted by some outside force, like being absorbed. The Potara earrings have always been one of the more inconsistent elements in the Dragon Ball lore, which is saying a lot. Earlier explanations make them seem like a definitive, non-reversible fusion, while later additions to the canon introduce time limits and exceptions. This shift creates an odd dissonance when revisiting older media like Raging Blast. Raging Blast 2 has a really cool little detail when it comes to performing key attacks. If your character is more powerful, the debris kicked up from the attack will be much bigger. It's such a subtle touch, but it adds so much to the feeling of power behind these moves. Watching a massive energy blast tear through the ground and send chunks of debris flying everywhere just hits differently when you're playing as someone like Broly or Super Saiyan 3 Goku. It's these small details that make the game's battles feel even more intense and true to the larger-than-life action of Dragon Ball. Ken Sugimori, the lead artist for Pokemon, drew significant inspiration from Akira Toriyama's iconic art style when creating the series' first official artwork. Toriyama's ability to infuse characters with charm, personality, and vibrancy deeply influenced Sugimori's approach to designing Pokemon. He adopted Toriyama's clean lines and watercoloring, ensuring each creature was distinct yet cohesive within the Pokemon world. Beyond technical aspects, Sugimori sought to evoke the same sense of wonder and adventure found in Toriyama's work, blending fantasy and realism to make Pokemon both imaginative and believable. While Sugimori later developed a style unique to the franchise, Toriyama's influence was pivotal in shaping the early visual identity of Pokemon. In Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, there's a sub-story that delves into the origins of the Beastmen, those anthropomorphic animal characters scattered throughout the Dragon Ball world. To be honest, I never really gave much thought to why some people in the universe just casually looked like animals. It always felt like one of those quirky Dragon Ball things that didn't need explaining, so I just rolled with it like most people. Some people are animals, some aren't. That's just how it is. But leave it to Kakarot to shine a spotlight on even the oddest bits of Dragon Ball lore. In this sub-story, it's revealed that Beastmen aren't born that way. They're the result of a drug that transforms humans into animal-like beings. And why would anyone willingly take a drug like this? Because in the Dragon Ball world, apparently it's fashionable to look like a talking dog or a humanoid cat. Every furry's dream. This revelation adds a whole new layer to the characters like King Furry, the dogman who rules over Earth during much of the Dragon Ball timeline. If the lore in Kakarot is to be believed, King Furry didn't just happen to be born a beastman, he voluntarily took a drug to turn himself into one. And now we have to accept that King Furry, the leader of Earth, is canonically on drugs to be a dog. In Legacy of Goku 2, one of the first things Chi-Chi does, because of course she does, is talk about Gohan's studies. She tells him that if he works hard enough, he could one day become the president of Earth. But like we just established, Earth in the Dragon Ball universe is a monarchy, with King Furry, a dog, as the reigning ruler. Dragon Ball Z The Legacy of Goku 2 hit the Game Boy Advance in 2003, developed by Webfoot Technologies, the same team behind The Legacy of Goku. What makes this game particularly special is that it's the first and only Dragon Ball Z game developed in the United States to get an official release in Japan. In 2004, it launched there under the title Dragon Ball Z The Legacy of Goku 2 International. The Japanese version featured several changes, the most notable being updated character profile images and revisions to the original Japanese names. While some of these updates improve accuracy, like fixing Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 portrait, new errors were introduced. For instance, Gohan is mistakenly shown wearing the wrong battle armor during Frieza's arrival on Earth. Legacy of Goku 2 International even includes the revised Garlic Jr. portrait, even though this portrait goes completely unused in all versions of the game. In Budokai Tenkaichi 2, Kid Gohan has an ability called Hidden Energy, and at first glance, it seems pretty useless. It drains all of his ki in one go, but the true purpose of this ability is hinted at right in the name, Hidden Energy. What it actually does is break the opponent's lock-on, allowing Gohan to effectively hide from their radar. This ability is a direct nod to a technique frequently used by the Z fighters in the series, especially during the Namek saga, when they had to mask their power levels while searching for the Dragon Balls and evading Frieza's forces. While this technique was undeniably useful in the anime and manga for sneaking around and surviving overwhelming odds, in Tenkaichi it doesn't translate as well into gameplay, and the AI's ability to re-lock onto you quickly makes it a situational tool at best. It's a fun little detail that captures a slice of Dragon Ball strategy, but in practice, it's more of a quirky addition than a game changer. Still, it's these kind of small lore-driven touches that make the Tenkaichi series so interesting. When idle in the Budokai Tenkaichi 1 menus, various characters will fly across the screen. There is Fat Buu, Kid Goku, Korin, Android 18, Super Saiyan Goku, a Capsule Corp spaceship, Piccolo, Dende, Vegeta, and Pura. In Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, there's an interesting gameplay quirk. GT Goku cannot fuse into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Instead, it is adult Goku from Dragon Ball Z who retains the ability to fuse into this form, alongside either Dragon Ball Z Vegeta or GT Vegeta. This decision feels counterintuitive when considering the canonical events of Dragon Ball GT, where GT Goku and GT Vegeta specifically fuse to achieve the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta transformation. Super Buu is often mixed up with Kid Buu, who is actually the form Majin Buu had after absorbing the Supreme Kai of the South. This confusion even made its way into Budokai Tenkaichi, where Super Buu's biography mistakenly labels him as the original Majin Buu. Majin Buu, brackets evil, brackets, there's that brackets evil. The form taken by the first evil Majin Buu. After devouring the good Majin Buu, this is also the form taken by the original Majin Buu, created by the wizard Barbady's father, Bibidi, after he absorbed the strongest and burliest of the Supreme Kais, the Supreme Kai of the South. This is not true. In the 2010 release of Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2, originally featured a soundtrack entirely composed by Kenji Yamamoto, known for his long-standing contributions to the franchise. However, this version of the game became something of a collector's anomaly due to its significant controversy that unfolded the following years. On March 9, 2011, Toei Animation issued an official statement regarding multiple musical compositions by Yamamoto that were suspected of infringing on the rights of third parties. This revelation led to Yamamoto's dismissal from his role as a composer. In the wake of this, Toei began systematically removing Yamamoto's tracks from all official Dragon Ball products. Raging Blast 2 was not spared. By late summer 2011, nearly a year after the game's initial release, a revised version of Raging Blast 2 quietly appeared for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. This updated version featured an entirely new soundtrack, replacing all of Yamamoto's compositions. Even the game's original opening theme, Battle of Omega, was swapped out for the international opening theme used in Budokai Tenkaichi 2.
Take your chance, beat it now. In my maze, I'm better from wrong. Get your voice. We can, Ichika, Bashika, take a hard little shoulder.
This situation created a distinct divide between the original release and its revised counterpart. For fans and collectors, owning the 2010 edition of the Raging Blast 2 now feels like owning a piece of Dragon Ball history. Vegeta's iconic over 9000 line from the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z is arguably one of the most famous memes to come out of the series. But interestingly enough, in most non-English versions of the scene, Vegeta actually says it's over 8,000. Craig Alvey from Screen Rant explains this discrepancy comes from a mistranslation of the original Japanese line. According to Daisenshu 7, the Ocean dub team justified the change by saying 9,000 better matched Vegeta's animated mouth movements in English. However, Alvey also points out that the Ocean dub was notorious for translation blunders, such as Goku thinking Vegeta killed Grandpa Gohan, or Bardock being referred to as a great scientist. When Dragon Ball Z was redubbed by Funimation with Christopher Sabat as the voice of Vegeta, its over 9,000 line was retained. Despite its inaccuracy, the over 9,000 line has been referenced in a bunch of different media. In Pokemon X and Y on the Route 10, there is a psychic trainer that after defeating will say, "You and your Pokemon's power levels are incredible. They're over 9,000 for sure." And then we turn the game off because we're just so ashamed. There's a Dragon Ball reference in World of Warcraft. A player who gains 9,000 achievement points gains the achievement "It's over 9,000." In Ratchet & Clank Size Matters, the famous over 9,000 meme is referenced after the tidal wave armor is unlocked. The description for this is, surprisingly, funneled electroshock capacitor energy at the right frequency through both Wildfire and Sludge MK9 armor parts created by a recursive feedback loop that dramatically increased the potential peak power output, nearing into the petagigawatt range. As one Gadgetron research scientist famously reported, "It's over 9,000! In the HD remaster of Devil May Cry 2, one of the trophies/achievements in the game is titled Over 9,000. It's earned by passing 9,000 levels in the Bloody Palace mode. And this is just a small handful of the references to this meme. Like most things in life, the human race can't resist running a joke into the ground until it is no longer funny. Over the years, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 has seen several revisions, but not all are created equal, as there is one version emerging as the best for casual and competitive players alike. The original vanilla versions, released in late 2004 in North America, Australia and Europe, were beloved at the time but are now considered outdated due to the numerous gameplay bugs and unintended mechanics. The North American version ran at 60 FPS, while the European version operated at 50 FPS, creating some subtle gameplay differences. Meanwhile, Japan didn't receive Budokai 3 until February 2005, months after the rest of the world, as developers used the delay to address bugs, improve quality of life features, and introduce new content, including optional Japanese and English dubs, and 3 unlockable costumes for Goku, Trunks, and Piccolo. These enhancements made the Japanese version a significant improvement, but later that year, improved versions, Greatest Hits in North America and Collector's Edition in Europe, brought these upgrades to the rest of the world. Fast forward to 2012, and the Budokai HD collection was released, featuring a remastered version of Budokai 3 based on the Greatest Hits edition, complete with a stable 60 FPS, faster loading times, and native widescreen support, though some fans, including me, lament the less memorable soundtrack. When it comes to the best version, the European Collector's Edition takes the top spot for its 50 FPS gameplay, which improves character balance, enables unique cancels, and shakes up the tier list, which is quite a unique ranking as most power releases of games from this time are often considered the inferior versions. The initial release of the Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 Greatest Hits was actually a huge disaster. It did not include the Greatest Hits version.
Shit.
Instead, the original November 2004 version was put in, which lacks the extra content such as the selectable Japanese voice cast promised for the re-release. It was only with later print runs that the disc actually included the proper version of the game. In the Japanese Greatest Hits Collector's Edition and HD versions of Budokai 3, there are 3 extra costumes that you can unlock through a password system. The password for Goku with a halo is "See you later guys, let's meet up again after you die." Goku says this when returning to the afterlife with Baba in chapter 477. The password for Trunks' insane armor is, "I'm so sorry for making you wait." Trunks says this when he and Vegeta exit the hyperbolic time chamber in chapter 375. The password for King Piccolo is, "Gahaha, this is the greatest, it's the greatest feeling." King Piccolo says this after he kills Shenron in chapter 148. In Budokai Tenkaichi 3, there is a Potara item called the Halo that can be equipped to any good aligned character, but only certain characters will actually have a halo above their head during gameplay. The only characters who sport the halo are Goku, early, mid, and end, Piccolo, early and end, Vegeta, end, Yamcha, Tien, Krillin, Chiaotzu, and of course Gogeta. Notably, all of these characters canonically die at some point in the series. Seeing a character like Goku, who seems to spend more time dead than almost anyone else with the halo, feels right. And then there's Piccolo, whose self-sacrifice and redemption arc make his halo appearance equally fitting. Even Gogeta's inclusion makes sense. After all, he's the fusion of Goku and Vegeta, both of whom have spent their fair share of time in the afterlife. And the first use of the fusion was in the afterlife when facing off against Janemba. In Budokai Tenkaichi 3, if King Cold fights Trunks, he will state that,
"I'm not afraid of you. You don't even have your sword."
in fact, King Cold is actually in possession of said sword and will use it during his Cold family power attack.
Behold my people's power! Regret this in the next world.
The sword even makes an appearance in his victory pose, where he confidently shows it off as if to taunt Trunks further.
So this was the extent of a lower life form's skills.
It's a clever nod to the brief but memorable scene in the anime where King Cold attempts to wield the sword after underestimating Trunks' power. In Dragon Ball Xenoverse, if you equip your custom Saiyan character with Launch's hair accessory, an interesting thing happens when you transform into a Super Saiyan. The hair mimics Launch's signature transformation when she sneezes. This clever detail is a nice nod to one of Dragon Ball's most comedic characters, who oddly only seems to get featured in the various games. It's like all other forms of media have forgotten about her. That said, when most custom characters turn Super Saiyan in Xenoverse, their hair only changes colour. It doesn't spike up into the iconic Super Saiyan look like it does for the main cast. The sole exception is Super Saiyan 3, where the transformation gives the character the full flowy hair model we associate with the form. Another peculiar detail in Xenoverse 2 involves Goku's voice lines. If you pit Super Saiyan God Goku against Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, you might notice something's off. Goku's voice changes to match his Super Saiyan 4 persona, rather than his God form.
How about it, Kakarot? Now can you fight without holding anything back?
You're amazing, Vegeta. Now let's fight.
It's an odd little bug that likely slipped through quality checks. It's very reminiscent of the glitch that occurred in the first Budokai Tenkaichi game. When Super Saiyan 4 Goku defeats Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, he will speak using his Japanese voice.
Well, seeing as how we both powered up and all, let's go, Vegeta.
My thoughts exactly, Kakarot. Come on!
Winner!
悪いな。今回も俺の勝ちだ。
In fact, the Budokai Tenkaichi trilogy has a lot of funny little mistakes. For instance, in the character selection screen of Tenkaichi 1, Broly's name is misspelled as Brolli. And when Super Saiyan Trunks' armor uses his finished Buster move with English voices, he suddenly switches to his Japanese voice for the attack. Tenkaichi 2 has its fair share of slip-ups too. Grade 8 Vegeta's ultimate move is mistakenly called Super Garlic Gun instead of Super Gallic Gun, an error that also applies to Grade 8 Baby. While most characters' names follow their anime spellings on the selection screen, Korin is listed as Karen, his original Japanese name, in the English voice cast credits. Tenkaichi 3 also has a fair few mistakes. When Goku GT uses the Spirit Bomb, he calls it Spirit Ball instead.
Eat this! Spirit ball! Come on!
Probably mistranslated due to its original name in Japanese, Genkai Dama, whose translation is the latter. This is further confused by the fact that there is already another technique called the Spirit Ball, created by Yamcha.
Let me show you my ultimate technique. You ready? Spirit ball attack!
Majin Buu's character introduction hilariously cuts off mid-sentence stating, "In Dragon Ball GT, Buu fights against," and then it just stops. Vegeta's Scouter second and third outfit lack a tail, yet he can still transform into a great ape.
Face my true power! It's the end for you!
And speaking of great apes, some Saiyan characters will create an artificial moon to transform even on stages that already have a full moon shining in the background. These little blunders add an undeniable layer of charm to the Budokai Tenkaichi trilogy. They are part of what makes these games so memorable, capturing the crux of an era when translations weren't always perfect and quality control could be a bit hit and miss. In Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai Another Road, also known as Shin Budokai 2, you can still see some of the good Majin Buu's influence lingering in Super Buu. When Babidi attempts to kill Mr. Satan, Super Buu shocks everyone by leaping in to take the blast. This act of selflessness isn't something we'd expect from a character like Super Buu, but it's a clear nod to the goodness that Majin Buu left behind. After saving Mr. Satan, Super Buu wastes no time turning on Babidi and kills him outright, a moment of poetic justice considering Babidi's role in his creation. Despite the surprising act of heroism, Super Buu doesn't fully turn over a new leaf. He remains a dangerous threat to the Z Fighters, and the events that follow mostly align with the main timeline. It's also worth noting that the Super Buu we see in this game isn't the same one from the main timeline, it's future Super Buu, as the game takes place in the future Trunks timeline. In Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z, Super Buu is incorrectly referred to as Evil Buu, a misstep that could understandably confuse players familiar with the series. Super Buu and Evil Buu are distinct forms of the same character, but their differences are significant. Evil Buu, often characterized by his gaunt appearance and grey skin, represents the malevolent energy expelled by Fat Buu. Meanwhile, Super Buu, who emerges after Evil Buu absorbs Fat Buu, is a far more powerful form, marking a key evolution in Majin Buu's story. To be fair, this isn't the first time a game has muddled the naming conventions for this particular form. In some official materials, Super Buu has been referred to as Majin Buu (Evil), adding to the confusion. This naming choice has even appeared in earlier titles, such as Dragon Ball Z Legendary Super Warriors, where Super Buu was also labelled as Evil Buu. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 holds a special place in Dragon Ball Z gaming history as the first game to feature the Funimation dub for its North American release. This was a major milestone for fans who had grown up with the English dub, as it brought the familiar voice cast of Sean Schemmel, Christopher Sabat, and the rest of the cast into the gaming experience. However, this wasn't the case for the European version of the game. In the PAL version, Budokai 1 was only playable with the original Japanese voice cast, accompanied by English subtitles. At the time, Sony had yet to enforce the specific localization mandate that required games to include voice dialogue in the language of the region they were being released in. This policy would later make it impossible for publishers to release games with Japanese audio and English text alone. Since Budokai 1 was released before this mandate came into effect, it got away with providing a subtitled experience for European audiences. Interestingly, the European version also featured a different translation than the North American release, making it unique in its own right.
Well, what an unexpected surprise. I just stopped by to enjoy the view. Why are you idiots here?
You know why. Give me back my son right now.
And what if I don't feel like it, huh? What are a couple of uni-runts like you going to do about it?
You might be stronger than I am, but that doesn't matter. There's no way that I'll back down.
You fools just don't get it, do you? I'll let you in on a secret. This planet's history. Even if you beat me, there are 2 more powerful Saiyans on their way.
That's just great. Then I'll deal with you first. I have to save Gohan.
Hmm, 2人で来たというわけか。一応聞いてやるが貴様ら、ここに何しに来た？
待ってたろ！オラの子取り返しに来たんだ！
お前らごときで俺に勝てると思ってるのか？身の程知らずとはこのことだ。
勝負ってのはただ強かいいっちゅうもんじゃねえさ。こっちには作戦があんだ。
こうまで間抜けとはな。ならばいいことを教えてやる。俺の他に生き残ったサイヤ人はさらに戦闘力が上なんだぞ。
見たな。だけど今やるしかねえ。ご飯はオラが助ける。
When Budokai 2 came along, things became more streamlined. By then, Sony's localization policies were fully in place, so all subsequent Budokai games featured full voice acting in their respective regional languages. This shift ensured that European players could finally experience the series with the Funimation dub, bringing them in line with what the North American players had already been enjoying. In Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z, the depiction of Earth is quite different from what has been seen in other Dragon Ball games. Instead of the fictionalized version of Earth commonly associated with the series, featuring unique continents and a layout distinct from our real world, the game presents a globe resembling the actual Earth. Interestingly, this isn't the first time the Dragon Ball series has leaned towards realism in its representation of Earth. A chapter in the original Dragon Ball manga briefly shows a version of Earth resembling our own. Also in the OVA Dragon Ball Z Bardock, the father of Goku, Earth is shown from space as Goku's space pod approaches. In this moment, the planet looks strikingly similar to the real-world Earth, complete with recognizable landmasses like North and South America. In Genshin Impact, the event character Liben, I don't even know if that says that, sports a backpack adorned with 3 orange orbs, each featuring red stars, a clear nod to Dragon Ball's iconic Dragon Balls. While the game doesn't explicitly reference them, their resemblance is unmistakable, and it's not like Genshin Impact needs a wish from Shenron, considering the game has made enough money to buy the world and everything in it. Dragon Ball Z Budokai stands out for featuring some of the most unique alternate costumes in any Dragon Ball Z game, offering fans subtle nods to the manga and anime. Goku's alternate costume, for instance, pays homage to the cover of Dragon Ball Z manga volume 10, where he's seen wearing a jacket with the number 26 on the sleeve. In-game, this number is changed to 59, a clever Easter egg. In Japanese, Go translates to 5, and Ku translates to 9, combining to form Goku. Vegeta gets a stylish leather jacket identical to the one he wears at the end of Dragon Ball Z. In Budokai 1, each character only has 2 costumes, which limits variety for some characters but still delivers memorable alternatives. Kid Gohan's alternate is his Saiyan armor from the Namek arc, which is not particularly unique. Thankfully, Teen Gohan, categorized as a separate character, gets his own casual attire from the end of the Cell Saga. This outfit also resembles Grandpa Gohan's traditional style, making it a possible homage to his namesake. Krillin's alternate is another great one. It's the Namek Saga outfit he wore during the trip to Namek, minus his hat. Piccolo's alternate costume transforms him to resemble Nail. Meanwhile, Tien wears his outfit from the Buu Saga, which is particularly notable because Budokai 1 doesn't cover that arc. Yamcha dons the outfit he wore when the Z-Fighters first encountered Future Trunks. Speaking of Future Trunks, his ultimate costume is the Saiyan armor created by his mother, which he wore during his training in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. The androids also shine with their alternate looks. Android 17 sports the jacket he's seen wearing at the end of the Buu Saga, as well as a very similar look to the one he is seen wearing in GT. Android 18 is wearing the outfit she stole from Chi-Chi, and then there's Android 16's alternate, which is particularly interesting, a metallic recolor with the Capsule Corp logo replacing the Red Ribbon Army emblem. Budokai 1's version is even more detailed than 16's alternate outfit in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, where it lacks the change in logo. Cell's alternate costume gives him the same colour scheme as Cell Jr.'s. Great Saiyaman's alternate swaps out his helmet for the bandana and sunglasses he wore during the World Martial Arts Tournament. His tunic also changes to match the colours of Great Saiyaman 2. One of the most amusing alternates belongs to Captain Ginyu. He swaps his usual battle armour for Goku's gi, complete with the power pole strapped to his back. This outfit comes straight from chapter 288 of the manga, where Gohan imagines his father being stuck in Ginyu's body forever. Dragon Ball Z Infinite World holds the distinction of being the first Dragon Ball Z game to include the Bluff Kamehameha. One of the more unconventional techniques from the series. Instead of directly dealing damage like a traditional energy attack, this move disrupts your opponent's flow by depleting their ki bars. A standard hit knocks 4 ki bars off your opponent's gauge, but if they're mid-fusion or attempting a special attack when the Bluff Kamehameha lands, it's even more devastating by draining 6 ki bars in one shot. In Budokai Tenkaichi 3, there's an intriguing layer of mystery surrounding Kid Chi-Chi's presence in the game. It's subtly hinted that this version of Chi-Chi might not be the original Kid Chi-Chi from the Dragon Ball era, but rather an adult Chi-Chi reverted to her younger self through the same wish-granting process that turned Goku into a child in Dragon Ball GT.
Ha! Chi-Chi, you got smaller too! You did something again, didn't you? You troublemaker!
This theory gains traction when you consider her unlock method is by summoning Black Star Shenron. However, this theory clashes with how Kid Chi-Chi is portrayed in Tenkaichi 3's alternate story mode endings. In one such scenario, Kid Chi-Chi interacts with Kid Goku in a manner that suggests she is the same spirited and naive girl from the early Dragon Ball adventures. Her dialogue and demeanour are consistent with her original characterization, emphasizing her innocence and budding romance with Goku.
It's okay, I'll get that lizard. You're strong. Do you even remember? I'm supposed to become your bride.
In conclusion, I don't know. In Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans, there's a ghost hanging out in Fortune Teller Baba's palace that drops a little Easter egg for fans of The Legend of Zelda. When you talk to them, they say it's a secret to everybody, and then hand you 5,000 zenny. This line is a direct reference to the secret moblin from the 1986 NES classic The Legend of Zelda. The quote has since become a reoccurring phrase in the Zelda series, popping up in all kinds of fun ways. In 2004, the Japanese gaming magazine V-Jump announced a limited edition version of Dragon Ball Z 2, known as Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 in other regions. This special edition was titled Dragon Ball Z 2V, where the V stands for V-Jump. The exact method of distribution for this limited edition remains unclear. Despite my research, there's little definitive information available. Most sources agree the game was given away, but details on how this occurred are elusive. An old V-Jump magazine page advertising the game offers a clue. Based on a rough translation, it appears that copies were distributed via a lottery. Presumably, subscribers to V-Jump were entered into a drawing to win one of the 2,000 copies. However, this remains speculative without further evidence. Mechanically, Dragon Ball Z 2V is identical to the original Budokai 2. The same game modes, capsule system, graphics, and sound are present. However, the Japanese release of Budokai 2 already included features that were absent from the international versions. These differences include a damaged costume for Goku, Piccolo's cape and turban outfit, Kuriza, Frieza's son introduced to Nekomajin, is an alternate costume for Frieza. Frieza transforming into his final form when using his spaceship ability. An additional 10th stage in the story mode unlocked after defeating Kid Buu. For Dragon Ball Z 2V, a few exclusive updates were introduced. The cover art features a new logo that hints at the primary edition, Cooler as a playable character. However, Cooler isn't a standalone character but an alternate costume for Frieza. He lacks a unique moveset or character portrait. There are new costumes, Majin Frieza and Majin Cell costumes, additional capsules for Great Saiyaman including Ki Control, Mixed Blood Power and Saiyan Heritage. A Z2 difficulty setting was added, offering a very challenging gameplay experience. The World Martial Arts Tournament stage now features a V-Jump logo on the floor. Another variation of this stage includes the logo in block letters on the wall. The title screen logo has updated to reflect the new edition, although the opening cinematic still features the original logo. And lastly, the game arrives fully completed. All characters and capsules are unlocked from the start, making the story mode more accessible. However, there's a catch. You cannot save your progress. As a result, any playthrough must be completed in a single session. Like I was saying, the Japanese version of Budokai 2 contains a hidden 10th stage that builds upon the conclusion of the English version story mode. In the standard Japanese version of Budokai 2, Stage 10 must be purchased for 1,000,000 zenny and activated by entering a password on a Z space in Stage 9. In the V-Jump version, it is unlocked automatically, prompting the player to proceed to Stage 10 after completing Stage 9. In this stage, Goku returns to Earth to discover that Cybermen have taken over. Tien and Yamcha join him, eager to prove their strength without relying on Goku. They perform the fusion dance to become Tiencha, a stronger but still underwhelming fighter. The stage requires players to defeat all Cybermen on the board, each of which summon a major villain upon defeat. Defeating the yellow Cyberman will spawn Nappa, the pink spawns Raccoon, the green one will spawn Raditz, red spawns Deborah, and the blue Cyberman will spawn Captain Ginyu. After battling through these foes, Tiencha faces Deborah in the final fight. Victorious, Tiencha and Goku celebrate, declaring their readiness to defeat Frieza, Cell and Majin Buu, only for Goku to remind them that those enemies are already dead. Stage 10 prominently features characters and references from Neko Majin, a lesser-known manga by Akira Toriyama. Initially an independent work, Neko Majin became a parody of Dragon Ball with the 2001 debut of Neko Majin Z. The series concluded in 2005 after 8 chapters, 5 of which humorously riffed on Dragon Ball. In the stage, Neko Majin replaces Mr. Popo on the map, teleporting players to predetermined spots. Neko Majin Mike replaces Dende, offering extra lives. Onio, a Saiyan clad in armor, appears occasionally, transforming into a Super Saiyan. Stage 10 also features unique spaces labelled WJ, VJ and MJ, likely references to Weekly Jump, V-Jump and Monthly Jump magazines, where Neko Majin chapters were published. Landing on these spaces prompts the player to enter passwords, which were likely distributed through the magazines. These passwords unlock bonuses. The WJ space unlocks 20% attack and defense for Tiencha. The MJ space unlocks the Cell Games tournament mode. And lastly, the V-Jump space unlocks the Z and Z2 difficulty levels. In the V-Jump version of the game, these bonuses are already unlocked. In Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, Trunks has the ability to transform into Super Saiyan 2, even though he never achieved this form in the original Dragon Ball Z anime or manga. Trunks' power level in Dragon Ball Z capped at Ascended Super Saiyan, a form he used during the Cell Saga. While undeniably powerful, this form sacrificed speed for brute strength, and it ultimately fell short against Cell. Trunks never reached Super Saiyan 2 in Dragon Ball Z, with this form being reserved for Gohan as his climactic moment during the Cell games. The inclusion of Super Saiyan 2 Trunks in Budokai 2 likely stemmed from gameplay considerations. The developers may have wanted to give players access to a wider range of transformations to keep Trunks competitive against other characters who could go beyond standard Super Saiyan. It's worth noting that Budokai 2 features several non-canonical elements, like the fusion of Tien and Yamcha or Goku and Hercule. These additions suggest that the game wasn't overly concerned with strict adherence to the source material, and instead prioritized fun and variety for players. What makes this decision even more intriguing is how it aligns with events that would unfold over a decade later in Dragon Ball Super. In Budokai 2, Frieza and Cell stand out from most other fighters because their ki naturally decreases over time. This unique mechanic is likely a nod to the fact that they are always battling in their final forms. Unlike other characters who might transform mid-battle, Frieza and Cell start the match at their maximum power level, which comes with a cost. In the PS2 version of Budokai Tenkaichi 3, online play wasn't an option, so the developers came up with a pretty creative workaround to give players a little extra content: the disc fusion system. Here's how it works. If you own a copy of Budokai Tenkaichi 1 or Budokai Tenkaichi 2, you can insert those discs while playing Tenkaichi 3 to unlock additional content. Specifically, inserting the Budokai Tenkaichi 1 disc unlocks the Ultimate Battle mode, while using the Budokai Tenkaichi 2 disc grants access to Ultimate Battle Z. These modes were highlights of the respective earlier games, so it's a clever way to integrate them into Tenkaichi 3. However, this feature came with a bit of a caveat. It meant you needed to actually own the earlier titles to take advantage of it. For players who didn't have Tenkaichi 1 or 2, this content was effectively locked away. It's one of those features that feels tailor-made for fans who have been with the series since the beginning, rewarding them for their loyalty, but also punishing those who just got into the series. GT Goku's design in Dragon Ball GT has always been a point of discussion among fans, particularly his skin tone. In the game Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, GT Goku is portrayed with pale skin, a stark contrast to the noticeably tan complexion he had in the anime. This change isn't entirely surprising though, as even the GT anime itself wasn't consistent when it came to Goku's skin tone. Variations can be seen throughout the later episodes of the series, promotional materials, and even in the TV special A Hero's Legacy, where Goku's skin tone appears lighter compared to his earlier appearances. Ultimately, while the changes sparked debate among fans, they were likely a mix of artistic intent, new leadership, and the desire to differentiate GT from its predecessors. Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2 has some pre-order DLC that has since become unobtainable. There were 3 sets of enhanced pre-customized characters that came with exclusive costumes, basically recolors of existing outfits. These costumes weren't accessible to the regular versions of the characters. They were locked to these enhanced versions, which were loaded with ability items that made them significantly stronger than their default counterparts. Here's how the DLC broke down. Same Pack 1. This pre-order bonus included enhanced versions of Goku, Teen Gohan, and Gogeta, each with their own unique recolored outfits. Same Pack 2, another pre-order bonus featuring Vegeta, Trunks, Sword, and Vegito with exclusive recolors. And then there was limited edition pack, bundled with the Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2 limited edition. This pack included Piccolo, Krillin, Yamcha, Android 17, Android 18, Broly, Bardock, and Turles, all sporting their own special recolored costumes. Unfortunately, these pre-order DLC packs have essentially been lost to time. The game didn't perform exceptionally well in terms of sales, with no official backups or re-releases of the content. The only way to access these recolored outfits now is through hacking. In Dragon Ball Raging Blast, if you dig into the game's executable file using a hexadecimal editor, you will notice something interesting. DBZ4 pops up frequently as a temporary project name. This is particularly intriguing because earlier pre-release material for Raging Blast often referred to it as a spiritual sequel to the Tenkaichi Sparking series. The use of DBZ4 might have been a subtle nod to this connection, implying that the game was meant to carry forward the legacy of the Tenkaichi games, even though it ultimately went in its own direction. In Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, there's a destroyed version of the Sacred World of Kais hidden within the game's files. However, it's never accessible during normal gameplay. Only one modder, Kidma Jr., managed to implement the stage back into the game. This claim has only been verified by a single person, which makes it feel more like an urban legend. In Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, while NPCs aren't playable, a handful of them can be selected as guest characters in custom battle mode. This feature lets them show up in user-made cutscenes, adding a bit of flavour to your custom scenarios. Interestingly, some NPCs have thumbnails in the game files, even though they aren't featured in this mode. It's possible these characters were intended to be selectable as guest characters, but were cut during development. The list of NPCs with thumbnails include King Kai, Old Kai, Kid Pilaf, Kid Shu, Kid Mai, Oolong, Kid Gohan, Kami, and Belmod. In Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, after defeating Raditz early in the story, players are given access to a vehicle to help navigate Konton City more quickly. These hover-like devices are temporary solutions to speed things up until you unlock the ability to fly later in the game. However, there's a minor error tied to these vehicles. The game's tutorial incorrectly states that vehicles can also be used in the Time Nest, a key area in the game's story hub, but in reality, vehicles can't be used there.